peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. I am Zin Uru, and this week we're going to be talking about grow where you are planted. That is the message this week, is grow where you are planted. I want to thank y'all for being here. As I like to say every week, that time and space are a fallacy. There's no such thing as time and space in the spirit. The future, the past, the so-called present are all happening right here, right now, in the great wholeness, in the great event, in the oneness of all of creation. Everything is happening right now. So wherever you're at, whatever day or time you're seeing this, you're actually here with me in spirit, right here, right now. And I want to welcome you all and thank you all for being here. If you so desire, visualize yourself in this room. What does this room look like to you? Where would you be sitting? What would you be sitting on? What kind of beverage you got in your hand? You got some snacks? It's so good to see you all here, and I want to thank you once again. Now this week we're going to be talking about grow where you are planted. And to start things out, I would like us all to take 3 deep breaths. I'm going to walk us through a deep breathing exercise, a very basic deep breathing exercise, one that you can take with you wherever you're at and whenever you need it. This deep breathing exercise, what it does is it floods the body with oxygen, and also it releases tension, it releases anxiety, it releases any kind of negativity, so-called negativity that we don't want on our body, and it fills our body and it fills our blood with oxygen. It oxygenates our lungs, our stomach, our whole body gets this burst of oxygen, and it allows our mind to think more clearly. It allows our parasympathetic nervous system to be more calm. And we can use this technique in any situation. If you're out in the world and you're feeling flustered, or you're feeling frustrated, or you're feeling angry, or something crazy just happened, on the highway, or you almost got in an accident, God forbid. But anything like that almost has happened in your life, or any kind of startling moment, or any kind of thing that you're like, oh man, I'm about to get angry here and I don't want to get angry. This is a great technique that you can use, and it will calm your whole body down, calm your mind. And with a calm mind, we have more options in life. Our brain just has more ideas that it can think about, more opportunities to see a different outcome. And our brain works faster and more accurately when we are in a more relaxed state of mind. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking 3 deep breaths in and out, but we're going to be breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And when we breathe, we fill up what's called the Dan Diem, the palace of incorruptible breath in Tai Chi. The Dan Diem is found when you place your left thumb over your belly button and you just kind of cup your belly. Let's see. Yeah, you can see me there. Just kind of cup your belly like that, and then you just gently place your right hand over there. And then you breathe in 2 inches below your belly button and 2 inches back. That's called the Dan Diem. That's the palace of incorruptible breath. That is the breath that is deep, deep breath that is of the earth and life and God itself. So let's take 3 deep breaths in. Breathe in through the nose. Deep. Hold it. And exhale. Out the mouth. That was breath 1. Breath 2, breathe in through the nose. Hold it. Exhale through the mouth. Hold it for a second. Breath 3, breathe in through the nose. Deep. Hold it. And when we exhale, give it a good stretch. Shake it off. Oh yeah, that feels good. Can you see how your body feels lighter? Can you see how it puts a smile on your face, how your brain begins to tingle, how your spine begins to energize, how your feet is a little more nimble, and you can actually think of greater outcomes. You can think more clearly. You're in a more centered and calm state of peace just by taking a few simple, deep, cleansing breaths. Those are called cleansing breaths. And at the end when we give it that, that's awareness. That's the when we finally figure something out. That's awareness. You finally got it. We finally got it. So now we're aware. So grateful to see you here tonight. Tonight, our message, as I said earlier, is grow where you are planted. That's why it's so important to know these breathing techniques and to actually develop healthy breathing techniques. Because breath is the key to life. We would not even be conscious. As a matter of fact, as the teacher has taught us, oxygen, what we call breath, that is consciousness. Because when we lose breath, when we lose air, what we're breathing in, what's the first thing we lose? We lose consciousness. Before even the body shuts down, we lose consciousness. We're no longer here when our air is gone. We lose consciousness. So we should really be thankful for these plants and these trees that are in our environment. Thank you, plant, so much. We are so grateful for you and all the plants, all your brothers and sisters of the plant kingdom and the tree kingdom. We are so grateful for you. Because without you, we wouldn't be here. We're breathing you in. And you know, in all fairness, all animals are breathing in this plant, and this plant is breathing us in as well. It's a symbiotic relationship. We exhale the carbon dioxide, and then the plant breathes that in and then breathes it back out into oxygen that we breathe in. And it's so important because part of our growth is our breath. Part of being a plant, grow where we are planted, bloom where we are planted even, you know, the fruit from where we grow, it requires that we are breathing in, that we are taking deep breaths in, so we have a healthy body, mind, and soul, a very clear insight into what is happening. Now, you know, grow where you are planted, what does that mean? You know, you could be anywhere in the world. You could be going through anything in life. And our purpose in life, that vision that you have for yourself that we've been speaking about each week here on Message from the Minista, that's where you want to grow from. That's what you want to grow into. Now, it's not always the most favorable condition that we find ourselves in. But when we have faith in God, we realize that whatever environment or condition we find ourselves in is exactly where God needs us at that moment to learn the lessons that God has for us at that moment. Now, of course, we are different from this plant in that this plant has roots. This plant is unable to get up and walk away from here in its current state. We have legs. We can walk and go places. But what is similar to us in this plant is that this plant, I'll bring it up here, this is ginseng. This plant has a container that it's in. This is a container that this plant is in, and its roots are deep in the container, and then the plant's coming up through the surface of the soil and the roots and growing up, and this one's actually growing up in a spiral. You'll see that most things grow up in a spiral like that when you look at trees and plants, and you know, and it's branching out in the leaves. And it's just such a beautiful illustration of what our life is actually about as spiritual beings. Put you back over here, plant. We'll get back to you later. As I was saying, this particular plant is in a container. And so therefore, its roots are growing down in that container. Now, we have roots. Our body, our physical body, is a container of sorts. Actually, it's a seed that has the plant, the life that's sprouting up of God within it, that tree of life that's eventually going to sprout. Now, I'm not going to read from it this week, but if you really want to get deeper into this lesson and have a deeper understanding, and you have a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop, just go ahead and flip after this lesson over to the seventh overstanding, the seventh sense, and it gets into us being seeds planted in this dark world. But for now, that's a future lesson for a future time. That lesson will build off of this lesson. But this lesson is more about how do we grow? How do we grow where we are planted? Wherever we find ourselves in the world or on earth or whatever conditions we find ourselves in, how do we grow? We are the container, and our spirit, our tree of life that is growing out of us. has roots within us, within this container that's being held onto. And God, we are growing towards the light, just like this plant, just like this tree here is growing towards the light. We are growing towards the light of God, which is the light itself, a light that exists before the sun. Even the Bible talks about in the beginning, God said, let there be light, and there was light. Then God created the sun. So there is a light that exists before the sun. And now these plants symbolically are growing towards the sunlight. We are spiritually growing towards God's light, which is the ultimate light of all that is. It is who we are and why we are created. It's actually the same light that we have within us. That light is nourishing us. Just like the sunlight can nourish the physical body, and the sunlight can nourish these plants and give it life through photosynthesis. They call it photosynthesis. I call it the miracle of creation. That same way, we are growing towards God's light. God's light is lighting us and causing us to grow right here and right now. And the best thing to do is to get out of the illusion that for you to grow, you have to be somewhere else, or you have to be someone else, or you have to be something else. Now, those might be great goals that you are going to achieve on the ultimate path. But as we said at the beginning, there really is no such thing as time and space. So everything that you are is with you right here, right now. Everything that you're going to be is with you here, right now. Everything that we used to be is with us right here, right now in this very moment. Therefore, there really is no place to go or no thing to do. We will perform action and we will travel and we will go to those places that we need to go that God has planned for us. But we should never feel desperate. We should never feel like we're living in some kind of despair or feel like we're being held back because the current environment we find ourselves in. Even if that environment is holding us back, there is a reason that God has you where you are right now at this very moment for a lesson that you have to learn. Even if that lesson is how to get out of this situation I'm in right now and into a different situation, that's part of the process of learning. That's gaining that godly insight, that godly knowledge, that godly wisdom that's going to grow you into your purpose. Now, we all go through this in life. We all go through these struggles. We see somebody, that we admire, as an MC. We might see an MC that we admire, and we say, oh, if only I had that audience. If only I could be where he's at or she's at or they're at. If only I could. And that kind of thinking holds us back. Sure, we can be inspired by those who've gone before us. But for us to ever even desire to live and walk the path of another man, that's a fallacy in thinking. That was their path. Your path is unique. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter where you live. Doesn't matter what you look like. None of that matters. What matters is, what is that urging that God has placed within you? That word that God has placed within you that's causing you, that's wanting you to grow into that person, into that being that not only you see for yourself, that God sees for yourself as well. Now, a lot of times, too, we may think we want to become something, or we may think we need to go do something, and the universe, God, will oblige and allow us to go through that just so we can see that we didn't actually need that or that situation. The same, we might think we need a certain car, then we get the car, and then God shows us why we didn't need that car in the first place, and then we come back, we rethink our situation, and now we're wiser because we realize we wanted that car, but we didn't really need that car, and now we have the wisdom to get to the car that we actually may need, to get to the place we may actually need to go, to become the person that we are actually required to come by God. God requires of you there is a requirement that God has placed on your heart. If you're listening to this message, there's a certain requirement that God has placed on your heart, a certain person that God sees you as. And it serves you well, and it serves God well, and it serves life well, and it serves your family and your community well to start getting more serious about that person who you say that you are, who that you think that you are, and who you see yourself as. Even if you've been doing it for a long time. Our mission, truthfully, we come to this earth with a mission. We come to this earth with a purpose, and we do not complete that purpose here on earth. God completes that purpose for us once we go. But we want to accomplish as much of that purpose here on earth as we can. This life isn't all there is. When this body's gone, I'll still be. I will still exist. I am the breath of life itself. I am God's light itself. Therefore, I exist eternally, just like God, my Father, God, my mother. I exist eternally. We are eternal beings. Let's wake up to that and start enjoying this life that we have. You only get this life. I've said it before. Yeah, I believe in reincarnation. I believe we come back. I believe that all religions, even Christianity, talks about that. You know, the prophets came back. The Christians, the early Christians wondered if John the Baptist was Elijah the prophet. They actually asked him that. So they must have thought that certain prophets come back. So even Christianity believes in a form of reincarnation as well, to be born again. But I believe that we do come back, but we don't really know what that's all about. It's not what we think it is. It's not what they show us in the movies. Yeah, it's cool what they show in the movies. The one comes back, Neo comes back, what? But in this reality, we don't want to wait for a future life to accomplish the things that we're supposed to accomplish right now, right here in this life. And when we leave this world, when I leave this world, I want to have fulfilled and accomplished as much as I was possibly capable of doing. Even though I might be saying, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done this more. Professor Hindsight is great. We can always look back over our life and want to have accomplished more. But if we're putting our best foot forward, if we're putting our best effort in life to become, to grow into the being that God planted us to be, we grow from that seed that God planted in this world, in this earth, in this realm that we call earth. God planted us here in this dark realm under this soil that we call earth so we can sprout through eventually and rise up into the kingdom of heaven and grow into what God actually intends for us to grow into. You know, the gospel of hip hop, it's a great quote. I just thought of this. I hadn't even thought of this while I was making this making the lesson plan for this ministry. But we start the gospel of hip hop with a quote from Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. If you have never checked out Edgar Cayce, that's a great study. Do it on your own time. Edgar Cayce said, "Heaven is not a place you go to. Heaven is a place you grow to. Heaven is not a place you go to. It is a place you grow to." Grow where you are planted, growing towards heaven, growing towards where we are planted in life is so essential. Now, how does this work? You know, how do we grow into the thing that we want to grow into? We've got so many things telling us how to think, so many things telling us who we should be, how we should be, trying to define us by, they want to define us by skin color. They want to define us by male and female. They want to define us by where we live. They want to define us by our jobs. They want to define us by our political affiliation. They want to define us by what so-called country we live in. They want to define us by who our ancestors were. They want to define us by how we dress. They want to define us by what car we drive. All of that is the lie of the world. And they know it works, because if they could turn us into automated robots, then they have won and we haven't won anything. Can you imagine being on your, I hope, just take a moment. Let's just take a moment and imagine what would it feel like? It's your last day, you're giving out your last breath, you know, and then you just oversee your life, and it was the life that somebody else wanted for you and not the life that God wanted for you. Oh, man. Oh, that's the kind of fear that could keep somebody up at night. And if that's the fear that's keeping you up at night, I suggest you get to your purpose right here, right now, in this very moment. Get to your purpose. If you got to turn off this video to go spend time with your purpose, go do it right now. If you want to learn more about your purpose or how to see your purpose or to fulfill your purpose, go ahead and keep watching this video. But the point is that our purpose is the fundamental idea that God has for our lives. And if we don't know our purpose, if you don't know your purpose, find somebody who does know their purpose and begin assisting and helping them. You will find your purpose upon the path. If you help somebody else who has already found their purpose with their purpose, you will find your purpose. But you can never let somebody else's purpose become your purpose. Now, my purpose is to preserve and further develop hip-hop culture. That's my purpose. That's the same purpose as the teacher. That's the same purpose as most of us in the temple of hip-hop. Our purpose is to preserve and further develop hip-hop culture. But we all have different ways. God has given us each unique gifts in life. Even if they're the similar gifts, we each have a different perspective. We each have a different way of walking that. We cannot walk the exact same path as the next man or the next woman. So even if you share a similar purpose with somebody, or you guys even both have the exact same purpose, that expression of that purpose, that expression of you is going to be different from the next one. Recognize your individuality. Recognize your uniqueness. Embrace that, not to become narcissistic or conceited about it, but embrace your uniqueness. Love that uniqueness. See yourself for the masterpiece that God wants to paint through you. See yourself as the finished work of God first. Do you see yourself as an MC? Then visualize that. Visualize yourself fulfilled in your purpose. See yourself up on stage rocking that mic. See your album completed. See that in the future. Grow where you are planted, though. Allow God to bring those opportunities to you. Allow that opportunity to fall into your lap while you are patiently waiting and being still. Yeah, you got to work on your rhymes if you're an MC. Yeah, you got to work on your lyrics. Yeah, you got to work on your flow. Yeah, you got to work on your timing. Yeah, you got to work on your cadence. Yeah, you got to work on your album. Yeah, you got to work on your live set. Yeah, you got to work on the way you're going to dress. You got to work on your breath control. Are you in shape? Yeah, you got to get on the phones and you got to search the internet and find where you can pick up the mic. But while you're doing that, while you're preparing, while you are growing, that is the growing where you are planted. God will then start bringing those opportunities to you, or bring that inspiration that's going to lead us to those opportunities. But grow where you are planted. Let's take the teacher, for example. The teacher saw himself when he was at the homeless shelter where he met DJ Scott LaRock. The story goes that, the teacher, KRS-One, he left home when he was about 14 or 15. He left home, 13 or 14 actually. He left home because he sought to be an MC. He told his mom, I'm going to be an MC. He moved out on the streets of the Bronx in New York, ended up in a young men's shelter, eventually meeting DJ Scott LaRock in the shelter. Check that out though. This is a situation now of growing where you are planted. So what happens is he goes out, he's homeless, he's learning to rap, he's writing his rhymes, he's visualizing himself, he knows the techniques of creative visualization, he's seeing himself up on stage, rocking the mic, rocking the party, he's going to where other MCs are going, he's hanging out with other MCs, he's getting his knowledge right, he's sharpening his pen, he's writing his rhymes, and the teacher is funny when he tells this story because he was while he's homeless, he's going to record labels and trying to get them to sign him, or say, hey, I'm a rapper, will you sign me? And they say no, and they shut the door, and they don't let him in the door, whatever those different cases may be. But he ends up at a young men's shelter, a shelter for young men, where in New York, you go to these, it's like a homeless shelter where they got a bed and they get fed and they got to wait in line for the meal, and there's all these other young men and women, old men, it's a homeless shelter. And so while he's there, he has a caseworker, he has a social worker named Scott Sterling. And so he needs to go get some tokens, and he goes in and he sits down, and that DJ or that social worker, Scott Sterling, says, yo, what do? He says, I rap. That's what the teacher says. He says, I'm a rapper. I'm an MC. And so the social worker says, yo, I'm a DJ. I'm DJ Scott LaRock. And teacher had heard of him. He knew the name, and so they connected there. DJ Scott LaRock, KRS-One, the history go on. And this is breezing over an incredible story. I'm just breezing over an incredible story that he's told publicly. And he's actually putting a movie together for that. We all look forward to the Criminal Minded documentary. Woo, it's fresh. I won't give no spoilers though, but this is that story. This is what's the legendary KRS-One, But this is how this lesson came to me, how he taught me this lesson, how he teaches all of us in the Temple of Hip Hop and all of us in hip hop. This lesson is that he tried to go all these other places to be an MC, had the doors closed on him. He's sitting there where he's planted in this young men's shelter, and his social worker happens to just be DJ Scott LaRock, and they form, world famous Boogie Down Productions. Now, how is that not the work of God? How is that not God's hand moving somebody and allowing them to grow where they are planted? It's deep like that. When I saw myself out on the road, when I first came to the Temple of Hip Hop, I came to the Temple of Hip Hop. I ended up getting invited to go out on tour for the first time in 2005. I really had no idea. I just wanted to show up to the Temple of Hip Hop to support. I was sending my $25 a week down. I knew that this was a good place to be. I had no idea how it was organized. I didn't know the structure. I didn't know how it was going to be taught. I didn't know none of that. I just came down in my faith, something urging, something pressing inside, revealing its truth spirit. Big up G. Simone for the acronym. That was pressing inside of me, and it brought me to the steps and to the doors of the Temple of Hip Hop, and I get invited to go out on tour. But while I'm out on tour, while I'm out there, while I'm growing into where I'm planted, which is actually the Temple of Hip Hop, see, it doesn't always have to be the environment that you're in, that you're growing. The environment that you're in doesn't actually just have to mean the house. It means the state of mind that you're in is the actual environment. Your thoughts are the seeds, and your mind is the garden, your mind is the earth. And it's that garden where you're planted. So I was planted in the fertile soil of the Temple of Hip Hop, and I had to grow from where I was planted. I was loyal. Loyalty is a big part of this. I was loyal to the teacher. I am loyal to the teacher. I am loyal to the Temple of Hip Hop. I am loyal to the gospel of hip hop. I am loyal to my God for bringing me here. I am loyal to the great and Holy Spirit for bringing me here. I am loyal to the Christ fire within my soul. I'm loyal to that because that's what brought me to the Temple of Hip Hop. And as I was in the Temple of Hip Hop, there were other institutions, there were other things in life trying to pull me out of the Temple of Hip Hop and say, hey, come over here and grow. You'll get better growth over here. You see yourself as an MC, why not join us over here? You see yourself as a minister, why don't join us over here? Churches and things like that. And I appreciate that. Honestly, I appreciate that people saw the value in me wanting to bring me in there. But I knew we were building something special here with the Temple of Hip Hop. I really knew in my heart and my soul that we was doing something special. And this is where I knew I was planted. My roots were already digging deep in the soil of the temple, growing where I was planted. It's so important that we grow where we are planted in life. And some of us don't even know where we're planted. Well, that's a great prayer. That's a great starting point, tonight, right now, whenever, raise your heart in prayer. Feel that in the prayer. God, where have you planted me? Why did you plant me here? What is my lesson for being here? What am I growing into, God? Why am I growing into it, God? Why did you plant me here of all places? And wherever you're at, you are growing from where you are planted. You may not be able to give where you're at a name, but God will give you the name. God will show you where you are planted. If you desire what you feel, what you really ask, what we really ask God in an earnest prayer for, God is going to answer. God is going to answer. Now, we can ask for things and God may say no. But when we have an earnest prayer of the heart and we say, God, why did you create me? God, what is my purpose? God will reveal your purpose to you if you're sincere about that. If your heart feels that, God will reveal it to you. God has not abandoned us. God is closer to us than our face. God is like right here. God is everywhere. God is breathing through us right now. God is inspiring us right now to grow where we are planted. Start thinking right thoughts. Start seeing visualizing the things that you want to see for yourself. Start feeling yourself into existence. Go back to the other. If this is your first message from the minister you're hearing, I cover some of this. I cover a lot of this in the third one, mind. It's about the mind. I forget the title of it right now. It will come to me. I forget the title of it. I'll put it up here. Go to that lesson, that message from the minister, to learn more about that. You know, it's creative visualization. It's get your mind right. You know, it's empowering the mind. And your mind's got to be in the right place to grow where you're planted, because we want to visualize what it is that we're growing towards. We want to actually know what it is we're growing into and where we're growing to. Now, as Edgar Casey says, heaven is not a place you go to. Heaven is a place you grow to. What is the heaven that we are actually growing to? What does that actually mean? And I don't have the answers for you. I know what the answers are for myself, but these are answers that you get intimate with God with. This is what you get deep inside, and these are the kind of questions we ask God. God, what is it I'm growing to? What does heaven actually mean? I think I have an idea of what heaven is, but God, what does heaven mean to you? God, what would you like me to see about what the kingdom of heaven is? Where is this kingdom of heaven? God, you say it's everywhere. Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is all around us. What does that mean, God? How can I see the kingdom of heaven in my day-to-day life? Grow where you are planted. Be that vessel. Be that container for God. You know, the tree being God, the tree being your true self that lives eternally, and the roots growing in this container of this physical body. Now, the metaphysics of this is that thoughts become things. What we think and what we feel becomes things. It becomes our reality. They call it the law of attraction. In the book The Secret, or the DVD The Secret is a good one. It gives you some of the basics. The other one is The Science of Mind. Great book. Oh, man. Great book. 3 Magic Words by U.S. Anderson that we read. These are great material, source material to get into the power of creative visualization and the so-called law of attraction. Starting to see and visualize and feel for ourselves. Because what we think about and what we feel constantly actually becomes our reality. It becomes the reality of the world we live in. I used to, you can actually go back and you see me in my car saying, I'm going to get a doper camera. I'm going to set up a dope area. I started visualizing this setup that I'm using right now, even down to this lapel mic that I'm using. I started visualizing this into existence through the so-called law of attraction, through creative visualization. I saw this whole setup, putting these videos out on YouTube. That was something that I saw and that I wanted to do. What is it for you? Now peep this. This is going to get really deep, and then we're going to get into our readings from the Gospel of Hip Hop, because this is going to get into deeper than I believe probably the deepest message from the minister yet. The media knows this. The people who own the media, the corporations that own the media, which actually goes back to a few families that actually own all of the media in the world. These few families that know this, especially in the United States, they know these techniques as well. These are ancient techniques. These are ancient metaphysics. And it behooves us. It empowers us to know these metaphysics, how to use them the correct way, and how they are being used against us in the wrong way. And that's what the media does. The media knows that through constant repetition, through constant mind control, through constant subliminal messaging, through constant creating of what's called prompters in the mind, the media empire knows this. Those who control the media know this, that if they keep smacking us with the same narrative over and over, Project Mockingbird, you can do the research, if they keep smacking us with the same fear, the same trauma, over and over and over, they can control our thinking and control our feeling and our thinking, and therefore they can control how we create our outer reality. How often does the media, make up stories? Wag the Dog, great movie. Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Wag the Dog. shows this in action, shows what they do. They create fake wars, they create movie set theaters, and they go along and they show you these scenes and they get everybody afraid thinking that that's reality, and that becomes what the reality the person thinks is going on, and therefore they're creating that reality on behalf of the media. Get away from that thinking. Bam, break free of that. That's what hip-hop did. That's what hip-hop's about. That's what the true spirit and nature of hip-hop is about. Freedom from the media, freedom from the mind control, freedom from the colonizer, freedom from the system. Another great movie, Iron Man 3, The Manchurian. In the movie Iron Man 3, the Manchurian, he seems like the world's scariest terrorist, right? And he's out there and he's like, I will drench the blood of America. Ben Kingsley does a great job, you know. He's just supposed to be this ultimate terrorist. And then as Iron Man, as Tony Stark traces him down and finally finds him, he finds out he's just a drunk actor playing a role. Crisis actor. Look that up, crisis actors. The media knows that if it creates this Hollywood movie, this Hollywood drama, the government knows if they always creates all these fake boogeymen, all this fakeness that's going around, they know if they can create all these invisible fake boogeymen that everybody's afraid of, that people will cling to the government. Why would they do that? Well, that's the devil right there. That's the devil trying to control God's thinking and trying to control God's children. But once we realize that's what's going on, we break that illusion instantly because, like I said earlier, this is just basic metaphysics. The devil ain't really that smart. You know, we find in Endarkenment that, you know, devils can't actually harm us. They can only trick us into harming ourselves. So with war, the devil, like God's children, we as natural human beings, we don't go to war naturally. So the devil has to trick people into going into war, go against their nature and kill another human being. We've got to break free from that bondage. All the media it does is lie. All the media is a lie. You know, the media, they only report on racial tensions and racial divisions, and this race doesn't like this race, and this one's racist, and this one's the more racist, and this one's the victim of racism, and yeah, that goes on. But how often have you seen a story about how racial unity is actually a thing, especially here in the United States of America? My teacher's black, a so-called black man. KRS-One is a black man, and I'm a white man, and I've submitted to him as my teacher in life. And he's accepted me as his student. We've ate at the same table. We've fulfilled Martin Luther King's vision. You go to a KRS-One concert, there's every part of the world is represented just there in the audience. Everybody's cheering, South Bronx, South Bronx. Everybody from all over the world. India, China, Japan, Colombia, Canada, all over the United States, Australia, New Zealand, everybody comes together, Spain, all of Europe, everybody comes to a KRS-One show. When's the last time you turned on the media and the media was saying, hey, look at all this great racial unity out of the KRS-One show. They've got it figured out. They figured it out. No, the media ain't going to show that. No, they're going to show this stupid white dude doing something stupid to this black dude over here. And they're gonna pump that, and then people start thinking, oh, robot thinking comes in again, robotic thinking, and everybody starts thinking, oh, racial tension in the United States of America. That's a lie. Yeah, that does happen, but why only show that? You're talking about an isolated incident of just a few people involved, but when you go to a KRS-One show and there's 700 people involved from all over, all different walks of life, men, women, children, large, tall, fat, skinny, old, young, black, brown, white, yellow, so-called. We're all just different shades of brown, by the way. You know, I'm a tan man. I'm light beige. I'm not white. I'm light beige. KRS-One is not black. He's dark brown. Sure, there's some political that goes around in politics about the black man and the white man. And I get it. but we also get it. You go to his show and everybody's represented. 700 people unified at just one show. Go, 150 shows in that year times 700. 70,000? 70,000 people who race isn't an issue for. And that's just at a KRS-One show. Go through all of hip hop. Millions of people worldwide aren't racist. Can we start seeing ourselves? How do we start seeing ourselves? How do we grow from where we are planted? How do we start seeing ourselves as the vision that God has for us and not the vision that the media, that the so-called Illuminati, that the so-called New World Order has for us? That vision, that's out the window. They're falling. The New World Order sat on a wall. The New World Order had a great fall. Don't fall with them. If you stand with them, you fall with them. How are you going to stand with God? Well, let's get into some techniques. Let's get into our reading. We're going to read from the Gospel of Hip Hop tonight, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that mindset. We're going to get into that spiritual sight. I'm so grateful to have you all here, but let's get to it. Let's get to our reading. We got a lot tonight, or today, wherever you're at. All right, the first one we're going to read from is the Promised Land. The Promised Land. Hip-hopia. I have a dream. That's the Promised Land. The Promised Land of Martin Luther King is hip hop. If you've got a copy of your Gospel of Hip Hop, or you can read along here on the screen as well, we're on page 36, paragraph 13. Page 36, paragraph 13, the Promised Land. I'm going to read most of that. I'll give brief commentary, but this is, we're going to be page 36 to the first half of 39. We're actually going to be reading 3 pages. I usually don't read that much on these, but this is such valuable information, and really get into the spirit of this while I'm reading and hear this. And I'll give a little bit of commentary, but I really just allow the words of the teacher as he's speaking through the Gospel of Hip Hop. Allow these words to really think and meditate on these words. The Promised Land, paragraph 13 on page 36. The existence of hip-hop proves for all hip-hoppers that there is a divine intelligence looking out for us, or rather, looking out from us. Something divine is concerned about hip-hop. You are hip-hop, I am hip-hop, we are hip-hop. And this is the focus of our study. As hip-hop scholars, we are seeking and tracking the patterns and nature of the force that made us hip-hop. And this is right for us. As a community, we love God. Even though we may fall short of what God truly intends for us, still we yearn for the presence of God. We know that rap music is only the early leaves of a very young hip-hop fruit that we, in immaturity and ignorance, continue to eat before it has fully grown into the fruit-bearing tree that it was intended to become. We are so much more than the leaves that bud up first to catch the sunlight. We have so much more growing to do. Pause there for a second. Grow where you are planted. That's why I'm reading this from the Gospel of Hip Hop. Grow where you are planted. Let us continue. Paragraph 15. Hip hop today is like the seed of a great fruit tree given to a poor and desperate people in an effort to save them from the effects of the terrorism their parents faced. But because of their own desperateness, fears and doubts caused by such terrorism, today they eat the seeds as opposed to planting the seeds to grow the tree. Paragraph 16. Hip-hop is like a seed that, if planted in your heart and watered by your faith, will spring up in you like a mighty fruit tree that feeds you and everyone around you all year round. But in our own desperateness to eat something, anything, we eat the seeds of our own salvation, ultimately remaining hungry and unsatisfied, never truly attaining the harvest that the seed was meant to produce for us. Perform patience in this. Allow the seed to plant, grow up, take deep root, be watered in the sun by God, and then grow into the strong tree with the strong base and the strong trunk and the strong branches and the strong roots to bear the fruit, that give forth the fruit. This is performed patience. Paragraph 17. Another way of looking at this is to say that we are stuck eating eggs because we never nurtured the eggs long enough for them to become chickens. It is like we are eating raw food because we haven't yet learned to cook. In other words, when we plant the seed, hip-hop, we never wait long enough for the seed to grow into the tree, peace and prosperity, that it was intended to become. This is the actual state of hip-hop today. We have been given the seeds to a great new civilization, but the seeds themselves are so valuable in the world that we just sell the seeds and eat the seeds without ever thinking about planting the seeds or for whom the seeds come. Many have become rich participating in hip-hop's artistic elements, but they are only rich in their accumulation and consumption of seeds. They would be even richer if they would plant the seeds in their own minds and in the minds of those who need the seeds the most. But such is the state of a desperate and traumatized people. We may be outside of the prison walls, but we are still lining up to eat. Stop. That is desperate and traumatized people. I'm telling you, it's called MK Ultra. Trauma-based mind control is what the media is doing to us right now and doing to our children and our families and our brothers and sisters. That television media, that tell the live vision, that media is traumatizing the nation, is traumatizing the earth, is traumatizing God's children. All of it is traumatic. Paragraph 20. This is why we as a people are not yet out of the dark in my times. Yes, we have been liberated, but we are not yet free. Yes, the chains are off of our feet, but we haven't yet begun to walk our path. Yes, the chains are off of our hands, but we haven't begun to reach or grasp for those things necessary to our healing and growth. Yes, today the chains are even off of our minds, but we still have not begun to actually think for ourselves. Yes, think for ourselves. We have the awareness of hip-hop, but as a group, we have yet to attain the actual hop, the movement of hip-hop. We think like hip-hoppers, but we do not yet move like hip-hoppers. We are aware of ourselves as a specific social group, but we are simply not moving collectively as the group we perceive ourselves as. And this is why the Temple of Hip Hop exists. Such a movement requires mass motivation caused by mass inspiration. This type of inspiration is deliberately caused by those who are the caretakers of the culture they seek to expand. They are the physical embodiment of what they teach. Others can perform the artistic elements of hip-hop, and this is good and highly respected. But if those same performers have no clear idea as to why they perform, then longevity, even as a performer, is out of their reach. Hip-hop is so young in my time. That's why we haven't yet produced authentically committed, serious cultural caretakers. And again, this is why our temple for hip-hop exists. Our temple is not a physical location. It is a society of hip-hop culture keepers who not only perform hip-hop artistically, but also spiritually. Our goal as a learning institution is to produce some real scholars capable of not only studying and teaching hip-hop, but also producing it. As hip-hop scholars, we are also, check this out, we are also hip-hop's gardeners. We beautify and maintain the hip-hop landscape, assisting God in the growing of our hip-hop environment. For us, such an environment is the land promised to us by God. If we would walk with God, never forgetting that it is not hip-hop that sustains us, it is God. Notice the spellings of hip-hop here. Hip-hop is culture. Hip hop is simply the name of our interaction with God. Woo! Hip hop is simply the name of our interaction with God. Hip hop is the solution God sent to relieve our suffering. Hip hop is the seed solution of a new vine, a people. Those who walk this life path are shown the secrets and the mysteries to the fabric of life itself. The good news is that we have identified the love we belong to. And as hip hop scholars, we are encouraged to seek and document the nature and pattern of this love, which continues to guide us, protect us, and to teach us. Got a little bit more to add on to that from the seasons, but we'll set that down for a second and just talk about what we just read. Earlier, I was saying how the media, how the government, how all these corporations, how they all work in unison to focus us on the outcome that they want from us, to build the world that they want. And so here God does, through divine intervention, God brings hip-hop and inspires a group of young people back in the Bronx to what would eventually become the world's largest culture. Hip-hop is the largest culture in the world. And as more of us can begin to continue to sink our minds into a certain way of thinking, into a certain way of being, those effects of the world, the things that the world's trying to make us think about, the lies that the world is telling us and wanting us to fit into their box and into their institutions, that will just simply cease to exist because it won't have the energy of hip-hop in it. You know, think about how many institutions required hip-hop to stay relevant. Now, I remember back in the early 80s when hip-hop was becoming a thing and everybody had to have a rap. You know, McDonald's, Burger King, G.I. Joe, the Chicago Bears, everybody had a rap. Like all these institutions had to act like they was cool like hip-hop. And, you know, they all had to become hip-hop. You see rap everywhere. If I watch the news to see what they're brainwashing the masses with, turn on CNN News and they'll be like, they got to produce, they got like a breakbeat loop. They have hip-hop style production to get the blood going and get the excitement going. You know, advertisers use a hip-hop style of artwork now that's different than it was before graffiti art. Advertisers use that. You know, the fashion industry alone trying to dress like how hip-hop dresses, trying to copy and mimic the styles of hip-hop. Hip-hop is the most influential culture in the world, but if we're not aware of it, those influencers within the culture get co-opted, and those things that the culture creates get co-opted by the mainstream, and then they start selling our culture back to us. They start selling that image back to us, and then we start thinking that they're the authority on that. That's why I don't care about no Grammy for rap music. We all knew, I mean, big up to Nas for winning a Grammy, but we all know, if you hip-hop, you already know Nas is dope. You don't need a Grammy to tell you that Nas is dope. Nas should have won a Grammy back when One Mic came out. For Illmatic. Go back to his first record, Illmatic. He should have got a Grammy for Illmatic. It was based on artistic merit. But we already know that Illmatic's a classic in the culture. We don't need the lamestream to validate us. And we should probably stop validating them as well. I mean, that's when the sellouts come in, right? They start validating the mainstream, and we look at them, we're like, oh, yo, you sold out. They know who they are. We know who they are. We ain't got to talk about them, but you know, the sellouts, you know, we don't even need to validate the mainstream. In fact, we should devalidate the mainstream is what I'm saying right now. And by devalidating it, calling it out for the lie, the illusion that it actually is, the fallacy that it actually is, and start realizing that God is the actual source of inspiration, that God is the actual source of creation, that God is our actual loving parent, not the government, not the media, but God. We can start returning back to our true nature, which is hip-hop, which is you. How do you preserve hip-hop? By preserving the hip-hopper. You are the hip-hopper. Start preserving yourself. Start adding that value to yourself. Like the gospel's saying, like a gardener. Landscaping. the hip hop environment. How do you use your hands? Let's not use, every hip hopper should be able to use their hands on something and not just moving a mouse around a computer and driving a car. How else can you use your hands? Can you dig a trench and bring irrigation? Can you grow a garden with your hands? If you're a DJ, can you fix your mixer? Can you take your mixer apart instead of having to go buy a new one? Take your mixer apart, weld it, enhance it, use your creative thinking like Grandmaster Flash did, Grandmaster Flash reinvented the way that the mixers worked. Can you apply your hip-hop sight? Hip-hop is sight, hip-hop is conscious. Can you apply that to your mixer and improve your mixer without needing to wait for somebody else to do it? Can you build a better microphone? Can you use your hands and solder and bend the metal and do all those things and even design it? And can you build a better microphone? How can you use your hands? Can you use your hands to cook? Can you use your hands to fight? Can you, you think about this, back in the days, like a blacksmith, like all metal, like they didn't have machines that just cut and laser cut and make you a sword. A blacksmith had a beam, heat up, know the different metals, know how to fold the metals, get the anvil. That was a way of life. A blacksmith was a way of life. It was like an MC. It was a trade. It was a way of life. It was something that added value. An apprentice, a blacksmith would take on apprentices, and they wouldn't just live right next door. Some parents would take their kids away, far away on a trip, save up all their money, and pay the blacksmith to teach their kid. And then the blacksmith would get in return a worker and give him a little corner over there in the shop. And then that kid would add value to himself because he'd be learning the trade of being a blacksmith. Can we still blacksmith? What can we build with our two hands? Can we take garbage and build something beautiful out of it? Have you ever seen these homes that they build out of bottles and tires? I'll put a picture up over here. They're called like earth domes or earth homes. They're people use recycled garbage and material, dig it into the earth, and make the most beautiful houses you've ever seen. Way better than these cookie cutter houses that we live in the suburbs, or in the inner cities, or wherever we're at in the world, the complexes, the whatever it is that we live in, these cookie cutter places. The hands can create. Don't forget don't forget the use of your two hands. What can you build with your two hands? Can you just move a computer mouse, text, order your food, dial the phone, drive? And then your hands just sit there limp, use the remote control, turn on a couple knobs. Is that the best your hands can do? Can your hands bind a book? Can your hands, chop down the right wood, or can your hands grow the hemp and smash it into paper and make paper out of hemp? What can you use? What can your hands do? This is important for grow where you are planted. What can your hands do? God has hands. God plants us. God has spiritual hands that plant us where we need to be planted. It took two hands. It was actually my mom's hands. Replanted this plant. It was dying. It had a hard time. She brought it back to life. She replanted it. She put it into a bigger container. She rinsed off the roots. She cleaned up the roots, and this plant came back to life. It looked like it was dead. She gave life to this plant because she knew how to use her hands. Hip-hop is the last of the human skills. Let's not forget how we could use our hands to enhance our purpose in life, or to just enhance our environment that's sustaining our purpose. If you could grow some food, if you could grow even 10% of your food, that's 10% less money you got to spend on food, which means that's 10% less time you actually have to go to work. If you grow 40% of your food, that's 40% less time you have to that's 40% less money and 40% less time you have to go earning that money if you can grow your own food. And you can be out there wrap into the seeds. I plant this seed underneath this tree. God, let your light feed and let the waters come. We are the ones. Peace, love, unity, having fun. I got to see this plant grow strong all day and all night long. we could rap to the plants, we could rap to the earth, we could rap to the insects, we could rap to the animals. We are hip hop. Let's wake up to that. My nobility. In closing, our closing reading, just a few paragraphs, because this it actually says in here, grow. It says, bloom where you are planted. A little play on that, but on the sixth overstanding, the seasons, page 325, paragraph 52. We'll read, just got 5 paragraphs to read here. 6 paragraphs to read here. Paragraph 52 in the Gospel of Hip Hop, the seasons. Now, what I'm talking about here, let's get our mindset now. As we've talked about all of this, let's just reset our mind, reset our thinking. This works so well. This lesson works so well with what we read earlier. We were talking about the desperate state that we find ourselves in as hip-hoppers, and how the world's looking to us, and how if we could rise up into our hip-hop identity and rise up into our hip-hop truth and rise up into our true humanity to empower ourselves and empower our community and one another. This is how we do it. These are basic instructions right here of how we do it. The seasons. Page 325, paragraph 52. Know this, an uncontrollable, imperfect mind is a prison for the true hip-hopper. For if you cannot direct your own mind and body beyond your own temptations, fears, and doubts, then it is obvious that you are led not by what you desire for yourself, but by what the mind and body crave for themselves. You are the slave. This is why you cannot seem to get anything done for yourself. In spirit, you must finally make up your mind, create and build your own mind state. It is you, spirit, that must order your mind and body to think and move towards your success. Otherwise, they will think and move towards the fulfillment of their own success, which is your spiritual failure. Right along with the knowing of one's self and even the creation of oneself, it is the true directing of oneself. Once your tempting desires and cravings no longer have a hold on you, you can properly direct yourself. That's how the media, it gets people after their own cravings and their own fears. Crave this burger, crave this car, crave this person, crave this event, crave this, and fear this body. Oh, the boogeyman's coming to get you, so stay submissive to the state, stay submissive to the government. Once you get out of that way, this is where we become spiritually free. Paragraph 54. For it is the will to direct yourself, even in the most confusing and uncomfortable situations, that prove your spiritual maturity. In fact, the ability to actually direct one's thoughts and actions above the cravings of the flesh is a skill that every true hip-hopper growing along a spiritual path must attain. This is why many people feel stagnated in their lives, even with success. Most of the time, it is because they either lost the ability to direct themselves or they never had the ability to direct themselves. They've become slaves to their situations. Whenever they think of something that they would like to do for themselves, it is their own uncontrollable fears, doubts, cravings, temptations, and other immaturities that prevent them from achieving that which they say that they want for themselves. In this case, someone will say, I want X, but I'm too afraid to do what it takes to achieve X. Or they will say, I want X, but deep down in their very being, they really don't believe that they deserve X or can actually achieve X. Here it is a fear and or doubt that is not only stagnating one's life, but this same fear and or doubt is actually guiding one's life. Such a person is not led by his will to achieve X, which is purpose. X is purpose here. Such a person is led, guided, and directed by fear and or doubt. Here's the cure right here. The cure is to direct yourself beyond your fears and or doubts with awareness. Being self-directed is the beginning of peace and prosperity. And this skill begins with taking yourself seriously. This means to finally make the decision to be that which you say that you are. Whatever that is, be it now. Bloom where you are planted. Love yourself. Don't wait for the best opportunity or some favorable situation to arrive before you. Actually begin the process of self-transformation. Grow from what you already know. Grow from what you already know. Practice the control of your emotions, sadness, anger, even happiness when you are confronted by selfish, depressed, and or angered people. Begin today to seize control of the environment in which you live and the mind in which you have. Do not allow the environment, people's attitudes, or the cravings of your mind to move you exclusively. At this very moment, make the decision to begin moving them. Homework. For those who are really committed, read The Seasons, the 6 overstanding the seasons in the gospel of hip-hop. Grow from what you know. Bloom from where you are planted. Do it right now, right here, right now, at this very moment. Be who you are right now, right here at this moment. You don't let the world tell you who you are. You tell the world who you are. You don't let your environment tell you who and what you are. You tell your world and your environment who you are and what you are. And if you think and know of yourself as you see yourself as something real, something that's inspired, something unique in and of yourself, be that person now. Stop wasting God's time and stop wasting your own time and stop wasting everybody else's time. I got a late start in life on all of this. 33 years old, 32, walked into the temple of hip hop. I got a late start on this. But I grabbed hold of it. Get an early start in life if you can. If you're older than I was then, if you're in your 50s now, you can start right here, right now. You know who you are. You know what you're supposed to be. Rise up, hip-hopper, to the nobility and to the vision that God has for us. Now is the time, and we are the people, and you are special, and you are worth it. See yourself as that, be yourself as that, and let no man and no woman and nothing stop you from becoming who God created you to be. And together, we will rise up and build our new nation, the nation that Martin Luther King prophesied and saw for us. This is hip hop. I Have a Dream is hip hop. Peace and so much love to y'all. Thank you for being here. I know you can feel my passion. I know you can feel my heart because I feel yours and you're in this room here with me. I'm just the mouthpiece speaking what we already know right now. Pick up that mic, pick up that pen, whatever it is you see yourself as, be it now. And there it is. Grow where you are planted. Hip!